This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have the top 16 deck list for the second Origins event that happened this past weekend. This is the Saturday event, and this was hosted by PPG as well, who gave me these lists to give to you guys, so I really do appreciate that. They also did want me to mention about their upcoming events this summer, so they've got events this month, next month, and in August. All of them in person too, so make sure to check out their website if you guys are interested in some in-person Digimon action. But going over the top 16, we do have 5 yellow hybrids, 5 Imperialdramons, 2 blue hybrids, 1 Armor Rush, 1 Mastemon, 1 X-antibody, and 1 red hybrid. So pretty standard to what we're seeing. Imperialdramon still taking the biggest chunk of the pie, and I think in general it is the best deck introduced in BT8 and it's been doing well. Blue hybrid and yellow hybrid have not really gone anywhere. I think a lot of blue hybrid players have maybe switched to Imperialdramon, but that's about it. And then everything else is just kind of decks that, you know, if they're lucky, if they're kind of doing well, they get that top 16. They are strong decks, but they do have some consistency issues and they kind of do have some rough matchups. So that's kind of from there. I do also want to mention that there were 200 players for this event, which meant that there were 10 rounds, which also had a top 8 cut. So that's something a little bit more kind of interesting to in-person events. Most of these Digimon tournaments we've done is just a top cut based on Swiss, and it's just based on standing. There's no top cut afterwards. So that is something to take in mind for looking at these. But we're going to do what we normally do. We are going to look at the top deck from every archetype, and let's get started with that. To start us off, we do have the first place list. It is Mario's yellow hybrid list, and I definitely recommend you guys checking out his video, kind of going over his card choices and his experience and everything else. Way better than me just looking at the list. So that's going to be linked in the description if you guys want to check it out. I highly recommend it. But the kind of key choice cards, I've been putting in a lot of deck lists this last month, if you guys can believe that or not. And the kind of interesting decision points from it based on all the ones that I've seen are: 1, Bokomon is rarely used. It is sometimes used, but that is definitely a decision there to run 2 of him, as well as Blinding Ray is an interesting choice to have the trash. You get the emergency memory if you need to, especially if you're running the TK Kari. If you are kind of like security locked with your opponent, being able to use the Blinding Ray to get lower than your opponent and then get these TK Karis to proc and get the more memory. I can see that, as well as just getting the emergency 2 memory if you definitely need it. And then as well as the Holy Flame. I do know this is a card that he's been favoring for a while, especially because they're running 4 of them. But one of your opponent's Digimon gets security attack -3, but the security effect is all of your opponent's Digimon get security attack -1. So it's kind of like an ice wall, so even cards that haven't been played yet. And kind of my understanding is more of it's just based on like the mirror match. If you hit a Holy Flame on the turn that they're trying to go in, they just can't go in anymore, and then they expend a lot of resources trying to do that. And that's kind of it can win you the game if it's hit at the right time. So that's something to consider. Definitely check out his video. He's going to go over it a little bit more than me just saying it right now. I did also want to kind of pick at Ying Huang's yellow hybrid list too for just a minute, just because it's just Ying is such an interesting deck builder and player. A lot of interesting ratios from this list. I don't think I could ever play this list and do well with it. Some key points here is that there's the 1 Black Gato. It does have Rush, so if you need that extra 5 memory just to go in there, that's fine to swing for game. It is also yellow, so you can Digivolve and other things too, and then it can give Retaliation, which can have some like choice removal too. It's an interesting card. There's also Chimeramon, which is interesting too because it can put you put under anything a level 5 or lower, right? So you can put the Black Gatomon underneath it, which means it becomes purple, which means you can go into Creepymon, I guess. That is literally the only way to go into it in the deck, is to find a Black Gato, put it underneath there if you didn't already Digivolve on top, and then go to Creepymon. So very interesting tech choice there. And then everything else I think is pretty standard. 1 Shine Greymon, 1 Fall Down Mode. Shine is just kind of moderately chosen. Rise Grey is just moderately chosen too, and then Susanomon as well. So really interesting choice. I can't imagine how to even go through playing this deck. No Wyvern's Breath either, which is a cool choice. 1 Kari as well for additional memory on recovery. And just highly guaranteeing that you're going to find a 3 tamer pretty early in the game. But I just want to point this one out. It's a silly list. And it's got Ying third, so congrats there. Next up, we are going to Alex Huertas, Imperialdramon. I think in general, Imperialdramon is a list, and I've said this before, and I'll say it in this video again. It is moderately understood. I think the low end is really where people get to make a lot of their decisions. There are so many VMons in this list, or in the game, that a lot of other rookies must be jealous that they don't have as many as VMon. But just because you have that flexibility with that, most people choose which one of their searchers they like more, if they like the jamming or not, if they want the memory boost, and that is pretty much most of the decision points there. I do like the Shivamon here. I think this is a fun choice to add to the list, especially since you're able to kind of go into it, and then if it's already suspended, it means that you can kind of do some nice things on the next turn, especially just being able to lock your opponent out of option cards this next turn is good, as well as everything else. So I do like the addition there because it just kind of fits into the deck. Hidden Potential Discovered, I think, has been slowly added as a staple for this list and has been doing well. Megadeth, anywhere from 2 to 4 copies, pretty common, and like the Mimi as well, because you can get the extra swing with it if needed. Like if you just have like a Imperialdramon already, or Imperialdramon already out, that is good. So I would say, like, yeah, Imperialdramon, there's going to be a lot of them, a lot of interesting kind of choices, and there's a lot of individuality to make the choices you want to make it go from good to great. And I think that's what Alex did for this event, and congratulations to him there. Next up, we do have our 7th place list. So this is Mike Nguyen's Mastemon. So it is... Mastemon, I think, is the same thing. Like, both of these are such good starter decks where they're just like, okay, buy 2 of them, it's your core, and then you can just kind of build a deck from there. Some kind of interesting choices there. A little bit more rookies than I'm used to, especially I think Taper is not as popular as it used to be, but they are running for there. Running a Black Automount and Wizardmon too with the Gato. So a good amount of just like blue or purple yellow level 4s, which just means that it's a lot easier to run, get the requirements for your memory boost, for your Flame Hell Scythe, and your Chaos Degrade. So I think that's a strong choice because a lot of time I play this deck and I like Mastemon, and I just don't have the yellow source. Or sometimes even if I go Salamon on top of my purple rookie or purple Digi-Egg Demi Meramon, my goodness, I just don't have the requirements to get my Flame Hell Scythe off. So being able to get these level 4s to just get those really cheaply and then being able to abuse them, I think is kind of nice and helps you out there. I like TK a little bit. I don't play my Mastemon with TK because I'm always worried it's going to hit insecurity and there's only going to be purple, and then I'm just going to take 1 extra damage, and I can't really afford to do that. But I don't know. I think Mastemon's in a fun spot where you can just build the deck the way you want it. You can try it out, and there's just a lot of variety for it too, which is really, really fun. So congrats to Mike there for his finish. And next up, we do have Cameron Shenoy's Blue Hybrid. I don't have a lot to say about Blue Hybrid, which I haven't said for the last 4 months. It is a good deck. It is strong. And I think in general, Hybrid is not going away. And I don't think it will go away unless they change how the core mechanics of Hybrid works, or there is more tamer interaction based on where we're at right now. We have very few cards that can stun or that can pop, are very specific cards that do it, that you have to kind of build the deck into the kind of the tamer hate. So without that, it's super easy just to have, especially in like a blue deck with like a Sora Joe out and everything, you just have your turn starting with 6 memory, and then you have like 3 hybrids in hand. You're like, well, if my opponent has 2 security, unless I hit a Hammer Spark or something, I'm just guaranteed to go in. There's just not a lot of interaction with these hybrids, and so I think that's good. That's that's part of the reason I think that Mario is running that Holy Flame, because it is probably one of the few ways to get that interaction in security where they hit this and they won't be able to kind of go off from there. So I think it's a strong deck, and I think honestly this deck, besides the Davises, is probably like under $50. If you want to get into the game, I think this is a really good deck to kind of start learning the interactions and get like a really not cost ineffective deck, but it's not going anywhere. I think people will still be playing this list, and it's still going to be popular just because of it really kind of abuses the kind of mechanics of the game with tamers and how they work, and I don't think that's going to ever be not good. So congrats to Cameron there, and no doubt this is just still one of many blue hybrids I'm going to see in the future. So next up, we're going to see Noah's Gelman's X-antibody. Normally, I've been saying that we see like one or two kind of X antibodies or like Ancient Gray. We got one of both in today's top 16, but they I don't know, these OTK decks, these like one big swing and win decks. Normally, one or two kind of squeaks into the top 16, and I think they're a very good list. And the only issue with them are one, they have consistent bricking issues. I think especially without a mulligan, I think there's a lot of issues with that. And these are just a lot more kind of luck things too. And the opposite too is like, oh, I hope my opponent doesn't have a way to interact with this, or they'll let me set up and everything else. But if you go off with this deck, you are doing super duper well. And I think like in general too, it has like the potential to do really well against Yellow Hybrid. If you're able to, especially like looking at the security here, right? There's obviously Susanomons, right, and fall down modes, but besides that, there's not a lot of interaction. There's none. There's no Eden's Javelins this list. There's no Wyvern's Breath specifically in this list. I think in Huang's, or not Huang's, Ying Huang, sorry, there is an Eden's Javelin there, so there is some interaction too, but like there's not, like if you just have a large boy who swings in a lot, you can do a lot of damage against something with Yellow Hybrid that has like 7 security. So I think it's a good choice there. And I do like the TK Kari is just such a weird tamer. It just kind of pops up in a lot of weird lists where it's just like, well, I'm going to play defense, like I'm going to be an OTK list, and they're probably going to start swinging at me first, or they're Yellow Hybrid and they're going to start recovering before I do anything. So being able to use this TK Kari just to get this, either get a lot of memory or preventing your opponent from gaining more security, I think is a interesting tech there. But other than that, pretty standard for the list. I think the Breath of the Gods, I've been seeing a lot of black decks run this as a not like a cheesy 2 of, but like I've been hit by this and I'm like, oh, I guess I just lose now. What a like for a deck that doesn't recover at all, it is I mean, it still has good stuff in this list anyways, but it is a bit cheesy when you hit insecurity and you're just like, well, I guess I lose. So anyways, that's it. Congrats to Noah. I think we'll see a little bit more X-antibody. But yeah, it is very tricky to do well with this deck sometimes. And sometimes it's just the deck just doesn't want to win, and that's kind of how it is. Next up, we do have Armor Rush, and this is probably one of the few, like I'd say, like pure Armor Rushes we've seen top in this month. This is kind of like a lot of what the original kind of build was. You just chump in a bunch of VMons, you have some of your armor cards, you just kind of cap out at your level 5. So 2 Chimeramons and 2 Imperialdramons as well. Fire Rocket is a fantastically good card though, especially since, with armor, even as long as you don't hit Link into like an Eden's Javelin or a Hell Scythe, you're able to get like at least this 2 checks with it guaranteed, because if like you swing with Flamedramon and it hits a 10k, then it dies, but the card underneath it will still get the security attack +1 and still get the check, which is nice, as well as the Magnamon. Like if you digivolve like onto a Magnamon underneath it, it still has the security attack +1, and I don't know, there's a lot of cool synergies with it too. But we've seen like the I don't even remember the name of the card. People aren't using it anymore. Do I have? Yeah, Armor Texture. It's right here next to me. No one's running Armor Texture anymore. I think that's a bit of a trap card for the deck. And obviously, I don't know. This deck is good when it goes off and it can be really aggressive, but it's really weird where you kind of need it sometimes for things to not live when it hits into security, and then it does, and you don't know what to do with it. So I think it's a cool deck. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's happy that it made it to armor or to top 16, but I don't know. It's a rough deck sometimes when it doesn't go off. So anyways, congrats to Kenneth there. And our last deck we're going to talk about is King Nuo's Red Hybrid. So I kind of talked about this too with the X-antibody. These lists do really well, especially since I'd say like both these do really well because not a lot of decks are inherently running blockers anymore. There's not a lot of that, and that's kind of like the bane of this list in a lot of ways. If you don't give yourself piercing, which I guess like which gives piercing? One of these guys gives piercing. Pretty sure. No, this gets security attack +1. I don't remember what gives piercing. I guess nothing in this build, right? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say a hard no. Yeah. Without this, maybe this Burning Grain might get piercing. No, it does not. Okay. Well, without piercing, yeah. If you just have like a little blocker and you try to swing with Ancient Gray with like as a 20k with 5 checks, you just block it, and then you're like, well, I guess I lose. But I guess you can you Omni and then you get it back. But I don't know. It's a very strong deck in a format where we're in right now, where people are like, well, I don't need to I don't need to use my security. I don't need to like protect my security if I have like 7 or 8 of it. And then they're like, well, I can hit for 8, so I hope there's nothing good in there. And as well as with having like the Aldemon effect, when this has a hybrid or 10 warriors, it's straight, it doesn't activate security effects on option cards when it checks. So inherently having a delicate plane in the archetype and everything, it's strong. And I think the only thing that's wrong with this deck is that it has the red issue where sometimes it doesn't have enough consistency, and sometimes you just don't see your tamers or your right hybrids or anything. But when it goes off, again, it goes off really, really hard, and sometimes there's just like nothing you can really do about it. So again, congrats to Ken to Khang and Nguy for their finish there. And that is it for our top 16 breakdown. So again, thank you to PPG for giving me these lists to give to you guys. Make sure to check out their future events coming this summer, as well as if you guys want to look at all the lists, it's going to be in the description of this video too. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.